So first of all, I want to begin this morning with a blast of the shofar. So officially, our Elul program has begun. For those of you who don't know me, I'm kind of looking at the list right now, and I think everybody does, but just real quick, Rabbi Dennis Eisner, and this is the first of what I think is about 16 or 17 different classes going to be put together and experiences, I should say, put together through the North Peninsula. And we really all need to show a big gratitude, show of gratitude to Rabbi Levi Darby, who is really coordinating this whole Elul event, and for the entire PJCC and the PJC staff for helping us put this together. And then, of course, all of my colleagues and friends who are teaching throughout this Elul program. So let's start with, I'm going to show you some texts on the screen. If you're not on the screen, just listen. If you're on a phone or something like that, or you don't have a computer. But we're trying to use this technology the best we can as we begin this month of Elul. And before we even get started on that, I just want to say a Shechianu. This is a new program, a new idea, but I think we should always start off with some type of blessing, some type of way of acknowledging that not only are we going to be discussing this Elul endeavor, but we are thankful that we can and we're able to, and that we're participating in it together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shechianu v'kiyemanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. And I say amen. So I want to start off by just sharing a quick text, and hopefully you can all see this. I'm going to move these things over to the side. And I wanted to start off a little bit with, because I was thinking about this last Shabbat as I read this as we led into Elul, this text from Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak. And he wrote, in the Shtetl Lubavitch on the Shabbat preceding the month of Elul, though summer still lingered and the day was bright and sunny, there was a change in the air. One already smelled the Elul scent. A teshuva wind was blowing. And that is really kind of where we are right now. We're at the beginning of this month of Elul. We're at the beginning of this endeavor. And the idea is, where do we go from here towards the High Holy Days? How do we prepare ourselves at this moment where we are right now, looking back, but also being in the present and looking ahead? So that's the trick here. That's the trick with all of this. The other thing is, and I talk about this quite often, so those of you who are members of my congregation who studied Torah with me on Shabbat mornings, who have been to services where I've given drosh after drosh after drosh on this subject throughout my tenure here, it's that I really do believe that this month of Elul is critical to our ability to actually move forward after the High Holy Days, that without preparing ourselves, without kind of understanding where we came from, and really what do we want to leave behind as we move forward. So that's it. That's the idea here. And I just, a couple of these things, and I'm putting this up on the screen because it's being recorded. And of course, if anybody wants these texts from me, all I just need to do is email and I'll send them to you. But it's just a little bit of background, this idea that Moses goes up to Mount Sinai and he's praying to God to forgive the people. Why? Because of the golden calf. He's up there for 40 days. We look at this, and when we start to think about all the time between the beginning of Elul and Yom Kippur, we have 40 days. And in those 40 days, we're going to hear the shofar being blasted. And so that's kind of this idea that from the month of Elul to the end of Yom Kippur, what are we doing? Some of the customs we have is like I started the class with the blowing of the shofar, the idea that we blow the shofar in the morning of Elul, and that we keep kind of jarring ourselves to wake up, to be prepared. Listen, guys, listen, it's coming. Rosh HaShana is coming, Yom Kippur is coming. What are we doing? Are you getting ready? And it's a combination also of different types of prayers and different types of activities that we'll do during the month of Elul and how we will get ourselves prepared. So now the next text I want to share with you is one that came up this Shabbat morning. And I had not expected to share this text, but I thought it was a great way of kind of, giving us some idea of where we want to go. Why it's blue, I don't know, by the way. My computer does stuff and I don't know, but hopefully everybody can see this text. And this text here is from Psalms. It's the first text of Psalms, and we read it on Shabbat morning as we're studying Psalms. And it dawned on me that this is really kind of the idea of this is what we're struggling with. And Psalm 1 reads, "Happy is the man who has not followed the counsel of the wicked or taken the path of sinners or joined the company of the insolent." Rather, the teaching of God is in God's delight, and God studies that teaching day and night. God is like a tree planted beside streams of water, which yield its fruit in seasons, whose foliage never fades, and whatever it produces thrives. Not so the wicked. Rather, they are like chaff that wind blows away. Therefore, the wicked will not survive judgment, nor will sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For God cherishes the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked is doomed. That's pretty heavy stuff. It's basically saying, if you're on the good side of this moment, if you're on the righteous side with behavior, with actions, with thoughts, with prayers, all the things, not just one of them, but all of them, right? Then you're going to have this, the rewards will come to you. And you'll be happy. It starts off with happy is the person in our tradition, right? We want to be inclusive. Happy is the person who has not followed the counsel of the wicked, right? But then you realize, well, but if you're the wicked, it's not great, right? You're doomed is the last word here, doomed. So we have to now spend some time during this month of Elul and this experience to figure out, how do we become that happy person? How do we get ourselves to that place where we're going to have the rewards of our behavior, of our actions? And how are we not going to be doomed because we have somehow slid into or stayed in that time, in that place, in those actions, in those thoughts, in those prayers, whatever they may be, that are considered wicked, that are just not kind and not caring and not compassionate and not all the things that we believe in. So now I want to take you to the text of the morning. And so here is the text that I wanted us to take a look at. So we're going to go all the way back to the beginning of Bereshit, to where we are in the section where God is telling Abraham. So we're going to go way back to Abraham, now even preceding Moses, right, in the story of Moses, which we already talked about. We're going to go back to Abraham. We're going to talk about this moment where Abraham is commanded to lech lecha, to go from the place that he lived, to go from where he grew up, to go from what he was most familiar with and maybe even most comfortable with, to go from status quo into something different, moving forward, moving in a path to something different. So in this text we read, the Eternal One said to Abraham, "Go forth from your land, lech lecha, your birthplace, your father's house, to the land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and it shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and I will pronounce doom on those who curse you. Through you, all of the families of the earth shall be blessed." So Abraham went forth as the Eternal had told him, and Lot went with him. Abraham was 75 years old when he left Haran. Abraham took his wife Sarai, his brother's son Lot, all the possessions they had amassed, and the people they had acquired in Haran. They set forth for the land of Canaan, and they arrived in the land of Canaan. Abram then traversed the land as far as the sacred site of Shechem, as far as the oak of Moreh. At the time, the Canaanites were only present in the land. So what is this text about? Why would I choose a text from Genesis not the Akedah, not a text that has to do with necessarily even teshuvah, that it doesn't have any of those things in it. Really, it's just a story about Abraham leaving. So the idea here is when someone leaves something, we often think of the destination when we go somewhere. What is the destination? Where are we headed? But we don't describe over and over again what the point of departure was. We know kind of where we were because we're there. And there is some excitement about where we're going. And this could be true with our High Holy Day season, with our Elul, with our Yom Kippur experience, really all leading all the way through, the end of Sukkot and Simchat Torah, when the gates really close. We could really be thinking only about that destination. I am going to be better. I'm going to be different. Whatever it may be, and that's a great thing. We should do those. But in order for us to be successful in seeing where we're headed, we may need to look back and see what we're leaving behind. So God tells Abraham to leave his land, his birthplace, and his home of his parents. And there's 3 descriptions of the present location. And then when it comes to the destination, God just tells him, go to a land without naming it or even hinting at where it is. So that tells us a little something. We get a lot of description of where Abraham was. We don't get, in this sense, a lot of description about where Abraham is going. It just says, go to this land. There is a Hasidic teaching which gives, I think, some voice to this inner dimension of Torah. And this explains that in truth, that the verse is really a commandment issued by God to each of us. So basically, if we can read within this story of Abraham, rather than kind of, hearing that there's some description of where Abraham was, and not so much clarity on where Abraham is going, maybe if we look into it, there's a commandment that we should pay attention to. And the Hasidic writing would say, go on a journey of self-discovery. Leave behind anything that might hold you back. And then I will show you the landscape of your divine soul, the true you. Now that's exactly what we ought to be talking about as we enter into these months of Elul. This idea that we are going to go on a journey, that we're going to go on a journey of self-discovery, that we have to kind of figure out, where is it that I am or have been in the past? And I got to spend some time understanding those things. I got to understand what it is that I want to leave behind. I want to go on a journey to a better self, to a kinder self, to a more compassionate self, to any and all of those things that I want to work on. And when I say I in this case, I truly mean me as well as you. As I teach these texts, as I prepared for this class, I realized I'm no different than everybody else. I mean, I've actually realized that my entire life, that I too am going on a journey, and in many ways helping to lead. But at the same time, if I don't know where I've come from, if I don't know what I've done in my past, good, bad, indifferent, things that I want to leave behind, and the places that I want to ultimately go, even though I don't know what they are yet, I don't have the description of that promised land. I just know it's there. I know that if I can strive for it, I can get there. So this is the struggle that we're going on. This is the battle that we are facing. I want to give some chance. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how to work all this technology. If there's anybody that has questions, or I think you can, if you have a hand raised, I think Susan, you have a hand raised. I don't know if that's from earlier or not. If you want to ask a question, you can turn it off and turn it on again, and I'll come back to you. But we can also stop for questions, comments, or anything else that may go along in this as we learn to use this technology. So how do we become motivated? How do we how do we become prepared to actually pack our bags for this future journey? What bags do we need to pack? What bags do we need to unpack? What do we need to leave behind as we're headed forward? We have good intentions, and those good intentions are real, and they, in many ways, are pure. But when you decide to leave, you really want to get someplace. We really want to get somewhere, and that doesn't happen easily. Again, let's go back to the purpose of Elul. And really one of the, I'd say, the foundational ideas behind this communal program, I mean, as many of you may know, maybe you don't, but this program came up at last year's Rabbi Roundtable, and we were talking about preparation in Elul, and we thought, what an interesting thing for us to do as a community, to prepare, to have as many of us participate. And you'll see in some of the, and this is not about having everybody all at once either, that the Rabbi Darby really created a program that so many of us could spend some different times in. But I would argue that for all of you, the more of this we can do, the better prepared we will be for Yom Kippur. And this may then reveal to us some of the ideas of what's the destination. Is the destination that we wake up in the morning and maybe we feel a little bit less anxious or a little bit less stressed out? We go through our days, and our relationships with our loved ones is steeped more in empathy, kindness, giving each other the benefit of the doubt. Those types of things that are critical to good relationships and to going further in the world that we want to live in. But if we don't spend time figuring out, well, where was I in those moments? Was I anxious? Was I short? Did I not give the benefit of that? Was I too quick to anger? Was I too quick to blame? Whatever those things may be, I have to figure out what it was in order that my destination becomes different. It can be true with anything else. It could be an environmental thing. We look back on our year and we say, yeah, we didn't do enough for the environment, whatever that may mean. I've been talking about getting solar panels for years. I just never did it. Well, why not? I've talked about getting a car that gets better gas mileage. Well, why not? On and on and on and on and on, those different things that we want to do. We go back to the Moses story. What was Moses going up to the mountain for? He was going up because he was begging for forgiveness because of the golden calf, right? We created one of the great sins of all time at the bottom of Mount Sinai. Here we are getting the 10 Commandments, having our big moment of revelation of whatever that moment that is seminal to kind of who we are as a people and how we're supposed to behave and what we're supposed to be like when we get to that promised land. But we hadn't unpacked our baggage from Egypt. We hadn't left behind the things that were holding us down so that we couldn't move forward. And we almost had to figure out, it's the golden calf. That's the thing. That was the thing we got to let it go. We got to move beyond that. And what does that mean? What does it mean that we have golden idols? What does it mean that we have things like that are so ingrained in our past, even if they weren't good or weren't positive or the best of us, but yet we hold on to them? What are those things? So, in order to create meaningful change, we have to know how to get to the new place, not just meander along. This idea that we spent 40 years wandering the desert and everybody's, asking oh yeah, I see somebody put down that if you're on the phone, can you turn down, you're getting some feedback. So I'm not hearing it on my end. I'm not sure why I'm not hearing anything like that, but please, everybody mute. That would help. Okay, sorry, it took me a little bit out of where I was going. So here it is. And I'm going to put some question out to you. And I would like to see if we could get a little bit of discussion. If you can only type, I will read it. If you can say it, hopefully we can hear people, but let's see how this works out. But I think one of the things I'd like to ask ourselves is, let's start to think about what areas of our life where are we repeating old habits? Where are we doing that? Where are the golden calves keep coming up? So somehow we repeat these old habits and we're just having such a hard time breaking it. And in what ways do we feel that they're damaging? So these are some of the things that we need to start to wrestle with. Again, don't forget, we're just starting the journey. Hopefully by the time we get to Yom Kippur and we're spending, 24 hours praying and fasting and beating our chest and, going through our al-chaitz and going through, our list of sins, Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazal, we're listing them out loud. And what are we doing? And where are we then? So this journey. So let's try to think of some things that maybe if people want to share, or if you just want to just speak to yourself. I already see that we're kind of losing a few people on the list. Maybe the technology is not working as well. And we do want to hear your feedback on it. So if it worked for you, great. If it didn't, let us know why and what it is, and we'll try to work on that. So I'm going to give it a couple seconds to see if anybody wants to respond to this idea about what are those golden calves? What are those things in our past that we seem to hold on to, even though they may be damaging to us? Anybody? All right, that's okay. So when I'm thinking of these things for myself and I'm preparing for myself to get ready for Yom Kippur in particular, I'm just trying to unmute people and make sure people can chat if they want to.
Rabbi, can you hear me?
Yes, Susan, I can hear you. Can everybody hear Susan? I hope so. Yeah, please go ahead, Susan.
Well, just in an effort to get things started.
Thank you.
One of the things I would like to do is to be able to follow up on the intentions I formulate during the high holidays.
Uh-huh.
And I tend to let go of those intentions as time goes on. So how do I stay committed to what I aspire to do?
So that's a great question, because look, we're building this system up in Elul that's saying basically, here, we're going to give you a framework to prepare for yourself, and we're going to give you a framework to lead you into to Yom Kippur, and we're going to give you a lot of language, because at this time period you are coming to shul and you are in the sanctuary, and you're it's being provided in many ways for you. This is one of the blessings and the curses that exist within our different types of Jewish world. If you live in an Orthodox community where the commandment to pray every day, 3 times a day, exists in your life, and your entire life is built around that type of experience, the system works for you, because when you're coming in the morning and you're davening your Shacharit service, this is after Yom Kippur, you're still davening, you're still reading Psalms, and you're reading, texts and prayers where you are focusing on this behavior. And that's really kind of the system that exists. Those of us outside of the Orthodox world that pray as often as we can, where we can, when we're, whatever it may be. Sometimes for some it's Shabbat. Sometimes it's maybe not even on Shabbat, because whatever. So we have to figure out, where's the system? So it's a little bit more difficult in that sense, Susan. I think it's a really great question. So maybe one of the things we can do for ourselves during Elul is try to figure out where would be our daily check-in. You know, there are books like Telushkin has a book where you read something every day and you try every day to kind of pay attention to this value. It's a book on values. I think it's there's like 365 things and you read one a day. Well, we could say, I'm going to try something like that. It doesn't have to be Telushkin. It can be something else. We could figure out when, you know, if you're commanded in the morning to wake up and say, Mod Be'ani, right? Thank you, God, for letting me have another day. Shema Yisrael, I believe in one God. Whether it's wrapping tefillin, whether it's whatever it may be, those things are designed to set your day off. Susan, I'll give you one more idea that could be really simple. And this I would say for all of us. How many of us on a daily basis, and I'm not talking about outside of our own home even, just our own home, when you enter your home and when you leave your home, do you touch your mezuzah and bring your hand to your mouth? I know it's this idea we think we're kissing the mezuzah, where what we're doing is we're touching the mezuzah, and inside that mezuzah is the Shema and its blessings, and it's saying, you know, I love Adonai, I love God, and I'm going to try my best, and with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my might, when I walk on the way, when I lie down, when I rise up, I'm going to teach it to my children, I'm going to bring it into my life, right? What if we all made a concentrated effort to do that? And so every day when you left in the morning and every time you came home, you touched and you brought that to your lips intentionally, saying to yourself, I want to remember what we did in Elul. I want to remember what I thought about on Yom Kippur. And each time I do this, it reminds me. Could be tzitzit. When you wear tzitzit and you have those fringes dangling from you, they're this constant reminder. So in the world where many of us don't wear tzitzit, me included, we do all have mezuzot on our doors, right? Maybe you need to put an extra one on your office door. Maybe you want to, I don't know, you know, maybe you want to wear one around your neck, which, you know, you can get. This is not a plug, but you can get them in the gift shop, right? So those types of things. So great questions, Susan. I hope that helped a little bit.
It did. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else struggling with, and again, I'm not asking anybody to divulge all their inner secrets, but you know, one of the things that I work on that I really, and I talk about it a lot kind of in my office with young people and with wedding couples and B'nai Mitzvah families, but I want to talk a lot more about being in the present, really being present, being where I am, not somewhere else. I think some of the times I think that golden calf, I'm always somewhere else. I'm always thinking about the next thing I got, you know, and technology is not helping this. Busy lives are not helping this. All those things. It's the destination can't only be the outcome. Sometimes I have to be on the journey. And so this month of Elul, I want to be real present in Elul, not just present for Rosh HaShana or the Yom Kippurs, even though I'm writing sermons and I'm thinking about those services. Okay, so, you know, a little bit of a hazard of the job. But if I'm not present now, even when I get there, it's not going to be as meaningful, because then when I get there, I have to be present in those moments, not stuck in Elul, not stuck in the past, and not looking past, you know, into whatever's coming next. So that for me is something that I'm really want to spend some time working on myself. Anybody else? Well, one of the things I'm not, you know, I think we're learning that in a class like this, it's a little harder to have the give and take and some of the, you know, banter that may happen in the class, and that's okay. What I hope you got from this morning is that you got this idea that, one, just by simply looking into some of our texts that are readily available to all of us, whether it's the story of Abraham leaving behind idolatry, leaving behind a world that wasn't, imbued with an idea of a single God, that leaving behind maybe those things that were holding he and his wife and his nephew back from moving forward and creating the world in which they wanted to live in. If we need to think about that. We need to think about what it is to leave something behind, to lech, to go forward with conviction, to go forward with intention, and to go forward with blessing. We learn from the story of Moses that it takes some time, that you can't just do it all at once. It took 40 days up on the mountain, and then it took more time in the desert. And then it took more time when we crossed into the land. And then it takes more time as a people, and we're still to this day trying to figure out who we are and how do we do it right and keep moving forward. But we have to know where we came from in order to know where we're going. And then the last text that I shared was the Psalms text. And I really, as we engage in an endeavor to read Psalms in our congregation here, this first Psalm, this idea that happy is the person who has not followed. I'm going to put it up on here again so we can take a look at it, because ultimately, if we're going to leave behind certain behaviors, leave behind certain experiences, leave behind golden calves, if we're going to leave behind those things that have held us down, we should have some idea that in the end of this hard work, even what Susan brought up, this idea, how do you keep it going throughout the year? And whether it's finding some mechanism like a mezuzah, tzitzit, prayer, whatever it may be. I don't know what that may be. A book like the Telushkin book that I suggested, something along those lines, whatever it is. It's so ultimately that we can become happy in the fact that we did not follow the counsel of the wicked, that we, headed towards a world and a self that can thrive in whatever it does. And when we find ourselves slipping back into the wicked, we realize that we got to recheck ourselves. We got to rethink, maybe come back to this Elul moment, come back to the Yom Kippur moment, come back to a story, a tzitzit, a mezuzah, something that keeps us headed in the right direction and takes us away from those things that are considered wicked and just not good for ourselves. So that's what I have for all of this morning. I'm glad that we were able to start this off. We are interested in feedback on the technology. We know that over this month, while there may be 8 or so people joining on a Zoom call like this, we hopefully are going to get more people at other events, including things like yoga and other events, but teachings from all of my colleagues here in the North Peninsula. And I really do believe it's going to be great for all of us to spend this time getting ready. Again, a big thank you to Rabbi Darby and to all of you who participated. Looking forward to hearing from you, and hopefully you will join in as many of these sessions as possible.
Rabbi?
Yes.
Can you tell us how to give feedback or how to contact you if there are questions?
So you can give feedback to the PJCC. So just contact Rabbi Darby, because it's really coordinating through all of him. So if there's feedback on the technology or how it worked or didn't work for you, we'd just like to know about that. Or if there's other things that you're concerned about, you can just contact the PJCC.
Thank you.
Sure. Anyone else?
Thanks for being a pioneer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for attending, and thank you for participating. And I look forward to many more interactions with everybody as we move forward in the month of Elul and headed towards those increasingly important moments in our lives where we really move forward in a very, very positive way. So I wish everybody a happy and healthy journey as we approach our new year and our new us. Bye-bye.
Bye.